So the last thing I want to talk about is the olaparib cediranib. We've talked about IO-PARP, we've talked about IO-BEV. We have not talked about PARP anti-angiogenic. And olaparib and cediranib were made by the same pharma company. So what about PARP and anti-VEGF together?
Sure.
So olaparib, cediranib.
PARP and anti-angiogenic, I mean, obviously that's going to be something like payola-1, but this is a different approach, using a different anti-vascular drug, cediranib, which is an oral VEGF receptor 1, 2, and 3 inhibitor, has other targets as well. But yeah, this is a trial from a phase 1 standpoint, started nearly 10 years ago, and has evolved into 2 phase 3 trials testing this combination, which is very active, but also has some important toxicities, and comparing it to standard of care, platinum doublet for platinum-sensitive recurrence in GY004, or in the platinum-resistant setting, testing this doublet against standard of care chemotherapy, such as liposomal doxorubicin or weekly paclitaxel. So GY004's expected results also in 2019, and GY005 is still ongoing. So yet another trial, but I think the other issues is that are that the control groups in some of these trials, because it takes so long to do trials, is not always necessarily the standard of care.
Well, the control arm are better than a placebo, though.
That's,
I mean, we just talked
Correct.
about Solo 1, where the control arm was a placebo. So at least those control arms have a control arm.
No, no, absolutely, you're correct.
And there are other ongoing trials in that same, in parallel with that, Avenova, which is using different anti-angiogenic agent.
Correct.
Icon 9.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
It's going to be interesting.
But it always involves a lot of discussion to really interpret the results and make those results clinically translatable to patients.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we've had a wonderful conversation about frontline and recurrent ovarian cancer. I'm going to give you each a second here for some closing remarks, and then I'm going to finish. But I've really enjoyed this encounter. And Mike, give us your closing thoughts about this evolving paradigm of how we treat epithelial ovarian cancer.
Well, just a couple of comments. We've sort of touched upon it. It's the most exciting time I've had in oncology in 30 years. We have choices. It's made the clinician actually more important because they have to interpret all of it and give the best opportunity for the patient. So that's all very good. And then finally, because I wear my biomarker hat, biomarkers have been my lifeblood. But it's been a tough row in terms of finding the right biomarkers for the clinical needs. That's become even more important now than it was 15 years ago. Absolutely. So, sort of tailoring these therapies to our patients in a very scientifically sound way will require biomarkers that are very predictive. And so we've got our work cut out for us, but it'll be hopefully important.
So I just want to make 2 points, and one is on Mike's lines around just really the importance of the science involved and how that does make our job pretty exciting, and it really allows us to engage patients as well. Underlying histology that translates into different molecular profiles, understanding how the different drugs are going to work along these different clinical parameters, kind of genomic parameters. And then secondly is really understanding that clinical trials exist everywhere. So I think it's for patients treated in the community, after they've gone through platinum and liposomal doxorubicin and topotecan and gemcitabine, and then the doc says, well, what, I think we've run out of options. That to me is unacceptable, because if that patient is well and she's got a good performance status, there are just loads of different trials out and around at our different centers where we're testing, really new strategies. And these strategies of PARP inhibitors and IO were the trials that we've been doing for the past 10 years. So it's patients, even if they're heavily pretreated, can absolutely still have options, and they can respond to those options.
So thank you all for your contributions to this discussion. On behalf of our panel, we thank you for joining us. We hope you found this Onc Live at Peer Exchange to be useful and informative. I hope to see you again soon. So long for now.